So, good morning to everybody. We have a couple of people appearing. I want to wish a warm welcome to everybody today tuned in our live stream. I can't really hide my excitement right now. I'm a little bit anxious, but anyway. So good morning from the Toa Towers from Berlin, Germany, to anybody watching us today. The topic today is really looking into NFTs, of course, but more looking into how one or many people can come together and join in a successful NFT project. And for that, we're happy to have one of the best people out there to answer these questions. And we're really happy that she's able to join in from quite far away, more like somewhere outside Brisbane, Australia. So quite late on her time schedule. So thank you very much. So we have today Betty NFT, who is the co-founder and director of Deadfellaz. For anyone in the NFT space, I'm sure you know who she is, but for anyone who doesn't, Deadfellaz is an NFT collection of 10,000 unique zombies on the Ethereum blockchain, which pretty much sold out like this last September and has already traded over 6 million euros. Betty can correct me if I'm saying it wrong. And the second reason why I'm so happy to have her here is because anyone I've emailed in this space up to now said, maybe I'm not the right person to talk about this, but the most inspirational person right now is Betty, so you should message her. So that's really why we're really happy to have her today. And I want to wish her a warm welcome. Hi, Betty.
Hello, how are you? Nice to be here.
Nice. Yeah, we're really good. I've heard from you, it's already 8 p.m., but this isn't the last meeting of your day. You've got more meetings coming up at 10 or so.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's all part of working on the other side of the world to everyone else in NFTs.
Yeah, of course. And I think anyone who wants to do this, I think probably has to get used to this, right?
Yeah, we have a very strange schedule.
Oh, okay. Well, let me jump the strange schedule. You can tell me more about that, but I want to just like go straight into the aha moment. So basically, what you were doing before the NFT craze came about, and what were the circumstances that sort of led to the conception of Deadfellaz? What time, what space were you in? What kind of time was this for you in your life?
Well, it was me and my husband. So my husband, Psych, is the co-founder of Deadfellaz and the artist for the project. We were both running a creative production agency, servicing clients, really amazing clients, honestly, like on paper, it would seem that we were doing well, like dream clients, everything, working for ourselves. But the reality is the pandemic was happening. We'd been through bushfires, we'd been through illnesses, like all kinds of different things. So we were actually in a pretty sticky place last January. And we'd been through lockdowns and all sorts, and all of our clients had large scale things that they were pulling back on because of the pandemic as well. And so it was just not good. Psych has been a digital artist forever, and so he's been in this art collective called Depthcore. Some people may know about it. It's I think it's over 20 years old now. They were releasing digital art years and years and years ago, just for the love of it. Anyway, some artists from Depthcore contacted him and said, you should check out NFTs. Some of them were already releasing their work on NFTs, and it just immediately very inspiring. It just felt like a light bulb moment. The technology and the convergence of that with art and the provenance of ownership on the blockchain and all of these things that just seem to be so amazing for artists specifically and creatives. It felt very cool. So we immediately both just jumped in, like started creating NFTs. I just started learning and listening, continuing regular work, but just spent a lot of time kind of lurking in the background and learning a lot. And then he was approached a lot to do art on other people's projects, and it just occurred to me that we have all of the skills between us to create something very special. So I just suggested, why don't we do our own? Deadfellaz, the idea came about really, it was like an immediate idea, like fully formed. I'm sure many creatives listening know what that's like. Like sometimes you don't need to think and ruminate on something. It just kind of comes to you in the flash of inspiration. And it was like that, like the name, the look, I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. I knew exactly what I wanted it to show and to bring to the NFT space. And so we just worked off of that. We sat down and worked out the first base model, which we haven't released ever, which I will, because he's so cute, this little original dead fella. But yeah, it was just a really great process, and immediately, you know, we were both creatively satisfied. We were able to like flex our skills in a way that we determined what we wanted to do, and it was just the process of it was fun making it. And then we launched, and it was crazy, and it's been a big journey.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and really relate with that moment where you don't really need to ruminate and you kind of know inside you when something is right, and it seems to have gone really well for you. So let me just go back to the launch moment, if I may. If you can maybe talk to us a little bit about the timeline on launching Deadfellaz. You know, had you gone through the process of creating some sort of marketing strategy beforehand? And are there a couple of things that you look at now at that first launch and think, wow, that was an epic mistake, or vice versa, wow, this is really great, anyone launching a project should definitely be doing this at their first launch?
Yeah, that's a funny question, because the space moves so quickly, and where we're at now in the NFT space is very, very different to where we were at, you know, in July 2021. And so the marketing techniques and the things that we did and the choices that we made may not be applicable to what's happening now, because the market is different, the sentiment is different. But when we did launch, I mean, we'd been working solidly. We were working like 6 a.m. until all the way through until 2 a.m. Just for weeks and weeks, just getting this down, just making sure everything was perfect. And that entire time I spent on Discord chatting to people. And at first it was like 5 people, you know, just people that, you know, like artists that we were friends with. It felt kind of awkward at first, and it does feel awkward when you're creating a community, because you kind of have to fake it till you make it, like assume that people want to be there and create opportunities for people to connect with each other and form those bonds. And so that's a lot of work, but so I put all of my efforts into that. Marketing, I just wanted it to be, well, I had identified that NFTs were very much community driven. So the community building was my priority over anything else. I didn't want any influencers. I didn't want anyone, you know, like being paid for tweets or any of that stuff. I just wanted like real people to come in and identify with what we were building, and then they talk to their friends. And I think that is where the value lies, and that's where people should be focusing always. It's very different now though, because of the way that we launch with different, you know, reserved lists, and there's a lot of hype. And I do remain very critical about how people launch, and I think that's important, because there's always ways that we can improve. We were one of the first projects to ever do a pre-sale list. At the time when we launched, the gas wars were really ruining people missing out and spending a lot of money on gas and failed transactions. And So we decided that we would put a portion of our mint to pre-sale to early people in the Discord. They were allowed to mint between 1 and 5. They literally just sent us ETH to a wallet, and then we manually airdropped them their Deadfellaz. So they didn't even pay gas, which was great. I haven't actually seen that done since, but it was a lot of work. That's the one thing that I would see if we could automate that some way, because it was like, we launched and we sold out and it was amazing, but then we had to sit for just days. There was no rest. Days just sending out each Deadfellaz one by one to everyone. But I mean, there were a lot of happy people. Everyone felt looked after. We had a very positive launch. So yeah, I guess just to focus on community is something that I would suggest.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, there's no way going around the hard work, is there? No hard work. No. Yeah. Hard work must be there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much about that one. Now that you talked a little bit about community, obviously we have some insights in, that you have more than 100K followers now on the Deadfellaz community on Twitter, for example. We don't know exactly the numbers, but we now see your brand in massive billboards, which is amazing. So my question is, in extent of this, how do you go about plotting the narratives for your next jobs, ensuring that this is kind of sustainable and your community is constantly engaging with it?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to the conception of the idea. I think that when you are building something that you want to release, it needs to be fully formed with room for expansion. You don't want to be boxing yourself in, but you also don't want to be starting something and then thinking of things on the fly. Like, oh, how can I extend this idea? What can I do? Because it needs to all be knit into storytelling. And so we have a really strong focus on storytelling and lore building and world building. So we have an entire team. Like, it was just Psych and I, obviously, at first, because it's from us. But we basically then brought on, we have a lead narrative designer, and we have a comic artist, and they're working together full time, basically building out everything that we're doing. And so all of the drops that we do make sense because they tie back into that, and they tie back into what we're doing. I think also thinking about your values and what you want to bring to the world, and then releasing things that make sense to that too. So diversity and inclusion is something that I'm very passionate about. Representation of all genders is something that I'm very passionate about. So the things that we work on, while I do have a vision of where we want to go, they ebb and flow with different opportunities that come by that are in line with those values. Just making sure that you're a step ahead in terms of where you want to be, and creating things in line with that rather than just creating for creating. I think there's too many things that are dropped for no reason at the moment. And having a reason behind it gives people opportunity to connect emotionally with what you're doing. And I think that there lies the value.
And you mentioned a little bit about having a comic designer, a lead narrative artist. I mean, how does one go about finding that sort of dream team? How do you know these people are the right people to work with on an NFT project?
So this is actually the best part of being in an NFT community is, hiring people and finding teams is something that we're used to, being in creative production, and we have different teams all over the world that we use for those jobs. But when you're working in Web3 and in NFTs, it's very different because it's a very specific set of, I guess, thoughts. It's just a whole new concept. The value exchange and the way that you work is very different. So finding people that understand that is very easy when you're looking within the NFT community. So we've kind of done both. We've onboarded people that I know do an amazing job that didn't have anything to do with NFTs, didn't understand what was going on. and onboarded them myself. And now they're like very much, you know, degens on Twitter with me, which is hilarious. But then also in our Discord, I have gotten to know so many people in our community and in the different communities that I have bought into their projects, you know, and you get to know these people and they're all just so talented and so forward thinking, and they want to bring their skills to what you're doing. So I'll be just chatting sometimes to people in the Discord, and then suddenly they'll be like, oh, I actually do this for my day job, and then send me something and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And then we work together on something. So I think forming relationships and being, you know, truly involved in these communities, you'll find those connections because it's a very small pool at the moment compared to what it will be. I think we have a good opportunity right now where we are.
Awesome. And I want to ask a bit of a, I wouldn't call it a technical question, but more of a question which is of a lot of interest to creatives. And I don't think anyone's really found the correct formula or the correct answer. But anyway, I want to ask you a little bit about the valuation of work, you know, someone entering the space now, given how big it is, being really unsure of, you know, how to price their work, you know, and what parameters they should be setting. Do you maybe have any advice on this one?
Yeah, so that's a very different question when speaking about, say, a generative project of thousands, or say a one-of-one or a collection of editions from an artist. So what would you like to know, I guess? Which one?
I think we have a mix of both. People who want to do both. I don't know if that would be possible.
So it depends. It's very dependent. So we'll talk about the generative side first. So generative projects, I believe personally that you shouldn't be charging what we're seeing at the moment being charged. So we're seeing mints of, say, 0.1 Ethereum or more for brand new projects with teams that have not proven themselves in any other situation. We've got no backstory, nothing. And that's where we're getting a lot of these rug pulls happening. You know, millions of dollars being generated on mint for really no reason. And I think that if you are so sure of yourself and you are bringing something to the world and you think, yes, I can do this, there is no reason to be charging that money. I don't think the community should be taking that risk. I think that things should be accessible. We should be focused on onboarding people, and then the value then comes in secondary, because you'll continue to be able to build with that secondary. And that's not sustainable, by the way. Like, relying on secondary sales to continue to build an NFT project isn't sustainable. You need to then focus on building out past that. And, you know, if that sounds like a lot of work, it's because it is. It's like driving a giant machine all of a sudden. And I don't think a lot of people are ready for that, which is why you see people leaving the space and, you know, running off with the money. So getting together people that you trust, and that, yes, we want to do this, we're going to do this, and having an idea of what you want to do, and charging accordingly. So we charged 0.025 for hours. I've seen a few others charge similar. I think Cool Cats was 0.03 or 0.02. We had recently Wonder Pals launched, and they had a really accessible minting price as well, which was nice to see. So in terms of like one-of-one artists or artists that are doing editions or smaller collections, I think that when artists are entering the space, it's a hard balance, because they either underprice and sell immediately and then have trouble getting out of that price bracket, or they overprice and then get disheartened because they don't sell immediately. And it's funny because it's something that I don't know if I have the answer for. I think about, look at the market, look at what other people are selling at in a similar in similar works to what you are doing. Say it's landscape photography, have a look and you'll see the variance, and just have a think about where you feel comfortable entering, and know that, say if there's an auction and the auction goes to a certain price, that's then your new price, so adjust accordingly and keep going like that.
Okay, awesome. Well, not that many questions to go. You'll be glad to know. But one out there for our marketeers that might be watching, because we are traditionally also a big tech community. So you did mention you worked with awesome brands before, maybe corporates before launching. Perhaps you also still do. So I just wanted to ask you quickly, how would you see these brands, for example, your old clients, making their way into the NFT space? What is your opinion on what's happening at the moment with that?
I think it's very tricky. I think that while I believe that it's very necessary for brands to enter the NFT space for mass adoption to occur and for things to keep on churning and that sort of thing, I think also the guidance thus far hasn't been on the mark, and that a lot of brands have entered and kind of in a distasteful way and done more harm than good, and it's not really been a great reflection of the NFT space. So I think a lot of people will remember the screenshot of the conversation. I actually saw it happening in real time and I was horrified, of like Pepsi and Meta, I think it was Budweiser as well, saying like we're all going to make it LFG, and using NFT slang to each other, and it just came off as like when like the artists and creatives and builders have made something that is ours. It's like a challenge against the corporate world in a sense, and decentralizing the idea of creativity and of what it means to put your work out into the world, and being valued for that work, and then they then enter the space and kind of co-opt the language that's been formed around that. So it felt really off. But then other brands have entered in a really valuable way that's brought a lot of great things for people. And I think that, if you see brands coming in and they're partnering with people that are already here, and they're amplifying people and they're uplifting people and giving people opportunities and really adjusting their expectation and how they're working, I think that's good. And it's huge. I've spoken to a lot of these teams internally, and it's like absolutely massive, because often it's a case of like 2 or 3 people that really understand Web3, that are really trying to educate everyone else in a company. It's hard.
Yeah.
But we're in a bumpy spot, I think, right now, because it's all unprecedented. No one really knows where we're going, but we're all trying our best. And I do think that we need to remain critical of big brands that are coming in, so that we can continue making something that is great.
Okay, and thank you for your honest opinion on that one. And with that said, I want to kind of ask this live question for last question before we close our live stream. So I've been talking to a couple of people recently about the fears that they are having when entering the NFT space, especially the ones that are sort of new. And a lot of people have come back to me and have honestly said that they are afraid that what was happening in the analog art world, which was elites being created, in effect, not everybody can come in here, is also moving into the NFT space. So the idea that the space is accessible and everyone is equal and everyone is coming in, some people are actually not feeling that way, and that kind of made me sad in a sense. I know you're an advocate of everything to do with equality in the space. So how do you think this will unravel going forward?
I'm not sure, honestly, and I think that that is something that I'm mindful of myself, and it's a pain point to be honest. I think that a lot of the exclusive marketplaces and with very, very high platform fees and all of that sort of thing, it's hard to break in to those spaces. And I've had friends that have been rejected every single time they've applied to certain marketplaces, and it's disheartening. I think that as we move forward, we will see artist created marketplaces that are more open, and I look forward to that. I think that we need to focus on really listening to voices that challenge those sorts of things. Exclusivity is always going to be something that people gravitate towards, because it's human nature. A lot of people just love to have something that's like special and exclusive, and but when it comes to access to certain spaces, and the fact that that is reflective of the real world barriers that people experience based on their identity and who they are and how they move about in the world, that's a really big problem. So I guess that's why I spend so much time talking about it. It's not great. I'm going to be completely honest. It's not great. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I hope that by continuing to talk about it and working with other people that are talking about it, there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great work. Just focus on them, focus on the artists, don't focus on everything else. If you get too lost in the PFP world, it can suck you in, and it can be very toxic in many ways. It's very awesome at the same time, very positive, and there's lots of benefits to doing those things. But if you feel disheartened, focus back in on the artists and just focus on what makes you happy, and things will get better, I hope.
All right, awesome, thank you. Well, I think that leaves a lot of a room for thoughts for our viewers also, and we would encourage everybody to get in touch with us also through our socials if you have any thoughts on any of these subjects that we talked about today. But that said, I don't want to bombard you with any more questions, and I want to at this point say goodbye to everyone watching us through our live stream today. And we hope that you enjoyed the conversation. I really want to thank Betty for dialing in once again, and we hope to see you. Yeah, no worries. We hope to see the audience in another session of TOA Club. Thank you.